Nausea, written by Jean-Paul Sartre and published in 1938, is a philosophical novel about the stories we tell ourselves in order to derive a sense of meaning and purpose from the world. Written from the perspective of the protagonist Antoine Roquentin as he fails to make sense of his own life, Nausea stands as a profound contribution to existential thought. The story ultimately illustrates how an acceptance of the inherent nothingness of existence and a commitment to our existential freedom can lead to a liberation from the illusory narrative structures to which we attach our sense of identity. Nausea is written in the first person as a series of diary entries made by Roquentin as he tries to comprehend the unusual sense of pervading nausea that begins to emerge through his perception of the world. By writing the book in the form of a diary, Sartre captures the isolating nature of Roquentin's experiences and emphasizes the importance existential thought places on subjective experience over objective reality. Roquentin is a historian living in the fictional town of Bouville, France. For the past 10 years, he has immersed himself in the research of a French fictional aristocrat, Marquis de Rolbon, who lived during the French Revolution with the intention of writing a book about his life. Roquentin's initial sense of discord and unease begins to emerge when perceiving objects and people around him, reaching a point where he struggles to comprehend the true nature of things. Things have broken free from their names. I am in the midst of things which cannot be given names. Nothing has changed, and yet everything is different. The idea that nothing has changed in their physical sense for Roquentin underlines Sartre's concept of the contingency intrinsic to objects, individuals, and places, and how the essence or identity of things are ascribed to them by the observer. Roquentin is essentially beginning to view the world through a new perceptual lens. One of Sartre's key concepts within existential thought is the idea that, for humanity, existence precedes essence. In other words, we are born into existence without an inherent identity or essence, and it is through our actions and choices that we subsequently cultivate and define our essence. In contrast, physical objects inherently possess a pre-assigned essence based on their existence and our observation of them. For example, a glass is crafted into a shape we recognize as a glass. The essence of the glass, which is its form and purpose, existed in the mind of the glassmaker before the physical glass materialized. This contingency and apparent futility of the world begins to manifest within Roquentin as a sense of inherent meaninglessness, as a result of his emerging realization that, at a fundamental level of reality, nothing possesses a fixed essence, including himself. All the objects around me were made of the same material as I. Now, when I say I, it seems hollow to me. I can no longer manage to feel myself. I am so forgotten. The only thing left in me is some existence which can feel itself existing. And has been immersed in the life of the Marquis for so long that he has forgotten his own essence, even to the point that he cannot distinguish between himself or the Marquis when looking in the mirror. Sartre famously claimed that humans are condemned to be free, given the overwhelming responsibility inherent in the freedom to define our own lives. The weight of this responsibility can often lead to what Sartre termed bad faith, the psychological phenomenon which involves a denial of one's responsibility to define their own essence, and the subsequent retreat into the comfort of predefined roles, beliefs, and values. Sartre asserted that bad faith alleviates the responsibility and anxiety inherent in the implications of free will, but ultimately amounts to self-denial and the pretense that one's choices and values are dictated by preordained external factors. Roquentin has been using the historical figure of Rolbon for the past 10 years to imbue his life with some sense of purpose, but in doing so has undergone a process of self-denial, avoiding the responsibility to define his own essence in the present by taking refuge in the romantic, idealized stories of the past. I have suddenly learned without any apparent reason that I have been lying to myself for 10 years, and naturally everything they tell about in books can happen in real life, but not in the same way. It is to this way of happening that I clung so tightly. Another character in the book that embodies Sartre's concept of bad faith is the self-taught man, whom Roquentin originally meets in the library. Obsessed with the desire for knowledge and meaning, he declares his intention to read every book in the library from A to Z. This act mirrors the innate desire within human nature to structure life into a narrative sequence in order to imbue some meaning or purpose into it. It furthermore illustrates the tendency within individuals to deny the acknowledgement of their existence and the responsibility to define their own essence in the present by instead deriving a sense of meaning from the past. Roquentin's new awareness of reality means he is able to discern the facade in which the self-taught man has immersed himself. A man is always a teller of tales. He lives surrounded by his stories and the stories of others. He sees everything that happens to him through them, and he tries to live his own life as if he were telling a story. Here Sartre also explores the theme of free will. The self-taught man's endeavors brings into question whether our life sequence and conclusion are already implied by its beginnings, or the objective realities we are born into, which Heidegger termed our facticity. This ultimately leads to the question of how we can reconcile such determinism with the notion of free will. The self-taught man's bizarre endeavor motivates Roquentin to start reading books at random points within the story rather than from the beginning, reflecting his desire to break free from the implied narrative structure of his life and assert his individual autonomy. As Roquentin's nausea intensifies, he asks the barmaid of his local cafe to play a song he is well acquainted with. He describes the experience of the music in great detail as he attempts to hold on to the familiar comfort of the song, to preserve each sound in a perfect moment, only to fail. Speaking of the notes of the music, he claims, "I would like to hold them back, but I know if I succeeded in stopping one, it would remain between my fingers, only as a raffish, languishing sound. I must accept their death. I must even will it." In his attempt to hold on to the feeling of each passing note, Roquentin realizes that as every moment unfolds, it is swiftly relegated to the past, finally coming to the awareness that the subjective experience of time is an illusion. I looked anxiously around me. The present, nothing but the present. The true nature of the present revealed itself. It was what exists, and all that was not present did not exist. The past did not exist, not at all, not in things, not even in my thoughts. His new perceptual awareness of time as an illusory concept, coupled with the overwhelming disgust he feels at the existence of people and things in the present moment, has rendered Roquentin lost, isolated, and devoid of any sense of meaning or purpose. Towards the end of the book, Roquentin writes of his encounter with a chestnut tree in a local park as he grapples with the inability to articulate the essence of the tree. He reflects on his previous ability to perceive objects in the world with certain labels or categories, which he now regards as superfluous and illusory. The veil of contingent essence and duality had lifted to expose the world's pure existence, devoid of any superfluous categories or separateness. And then, all of a sudden, there it was, clear as day. Existence had suddenly unveiled itself. It had lost the harmless look of an abstract category. It was the very paste of things. This root was kneaded into existence. When we assign a name to something, we introduce an additional layer of reality, confining it to a concept within our language. The words we use to characterize objects are not synonymous with the objects themselves. They merely serve as signposts pointing to the concept that we all hold a shared understanding of. Beneath this realm of words, labels, and concepts lies the intrinsic reality of existence, a reality that Roquentin perceives as nothingness. It is upon this foundation of nothingness, however, that he is able to begin to define his own essence. The image of the tree serves as a powerful symbol at this point in Roquentin's journey, representing the interconnectedness of all things, as well as symbolizing growth and the cyclical nature of the universe. His encounter with the tree marks the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Having come to perceive the past as a collection of futile concepts, Roquentin becomes unable to derive any meaning from his scholarly work. Consequently, he abandons his research on the Marquis and journeys to Paris to visit his former lover, Annie, with the intention of permanently moving there. However, as he attempts to articulate his experience of nausea and his evolving perceptions of time and existence, he discovers Annie unable to comprehend his views, instead being fixated on past memories. Annie relies on Roquentin to define her essence, embodying Sartre's idea of bad faith and avoiding the responsibility of embracing her own existential autonomy. They part on strained terms as Roquentin returns to Bouville, isolated and lonely, struggling to connect with others or convey his newfound perception. However, through an awareness and acceptance of the inherent contingency and meaninglessness of existence, he no longer views himself as an individual within a vast world of nauseating people and things, but he is existence itself, one with fundamental reality. The nausea has not left me, and I don't believe it will leave me so soon, but I no longer have to bear it. It is no longer an illness or a passing fit. It is I. In his local cafe, Roquentin once again finds solace in the familiarity of a song playing on the record player, inspiring him to derive meaning through an embracing of the present. Having departed from his reliance on the historical figure of the Marquis to provide purpose to his life, he decides to write a fictional story, symbolizing his capacity for creating his own identity, his own essence, free from the preordained narrative structures which constitute objective reality. The story ending in this way mirrors Sartre's fundamental concept that existence precedes essence. Roquentin has undergone a profound reversal of this phenomenon, culminating in a stripping away of the layers of essence and conceptual reality to reveal pure existence. By embracing the inherent nothingness of reality, he now has a foundation upon which he can define and cultivate his own essence. Amid the bleakness inherent within Sartre's novel emerges a hopeful outlook. Sartre invites readers to accept and embrace the contingency of the world, providing us with the gift of awareness that, although the world might be devoid of intrinsic meaning, the disconcerting sense of isolation that this awareness entails is not the endpoint of our story. With this realization comes the capacity to transcend our given facticity or the narrative of our past and to cultivate our own essence. If we can avoid the denial of our capacity for autonomy and the retreat into predefined roles, we can imbue our lives with authentic values and purpose and become the authors of our own stories.